Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities and Miniatures, and it is more Kingdom Death time. I am going to get back, or at least attempt to get back into a routine of working my way through the never-ending backlog of voluptuous and often scantily clad men and women of Adam Pootz's nightmare world. And today, this looks to be the generic male knight. Now, we've had the female ones before, but we get the men quite rarely, so that seemed like... Oh, this is new. I don't remember seeing that on the inside of the box, so that's kind of cool. Anyway, we don't get a lot of men in the resin or photo resin ranges of models, so it is always kind of nice to see the usual bases. And for once, I seem to have managed to get one of the first runs. It's been a while. And come on, look at this guy. He's so anime it hurts. Come on, this is like, you know, it looks like something out of Grand Blue Fantasy or something. Like he's like some elder statesman warrior who's going to take Van and friends under their wing. You know? Maybe he has some kind of insidious plot that he's working on with the enemies because some sick person in his family needs help, and that's the only... I'm like writing his whole backstory. I'll shut up. Anyways, let's see what we got here. So yeah, these are the photo resin figures. That means that at one point they were actually printed off of a 3D printer. They're not cast resin, but at this point, I mean, I've worked on enough of these. I don't see much discernible difference. Having done a bajillion 3D printed videos and models, I mean, the quality on this is fantastic. You can see every little imperfection on my fingernails, but there are very, very few issues with that resin there. So the body's pretty much one piece, and then in this little baggie, what do we got? An arm. An arm with a magic sword. A little bit of cleanup on some of the supports there that didn't get removed yet. And then the head and the scabbard are already attached. Now, I don't know what this little bit is right here where my finger's pointing. If that's just like flash or something that needs to be removed, we'll find out. But if you give me a moment, I will put them all together and I will let you know, because I don't think it's going to take too long. So, sit tight. So, here is the knight. Now, I'm not particularly happy with one area of him, and that is that little medallion thingy hanging off of his scabbard, because naturally I broke it. Why did I break it? Because his head seems to have a bit of a gap. It's not super noticeable, and I'm like, it's really zoomed in and you probably can't see it, and maybe it's just me being crazy and paranoid, but I feel like his head did not really fit well with the body. I feel like there's like a piece missing from the neck or something. Is it a deal breaker? No. Is it just me? Probably. And what sucks is, besides the fact that I broke that medallion while trying to get him put together, I really like this pose. It's simple in its structure as I bang the camera there, but it really conveys that kind of regal, arrogant, you know, anime-esque fantasy trope warrior that the artwork does such a nice job conveying. I don't know, that doesn't look like a Lockman Lamb one. I could be wrong, I'll have to double check online. I didn't prior to this, but I love the colors. And again, for somebody who spends way too much time looking at the details and designs of stuff for various fantasy gacha game art, I mean, it hits all the right notes for me. It looks like something we could see in a game. And obviously, I mean, by a game, I mean a video game or something, and not just the Kingdom Death Simulator. But I'm really looking forward to getting this guy put together, well, with glue, obviously. Oh my god, I don't know what I'm talking about. He is glued together. I mean with paint. We'll get it right eventually. I feel like it's a great looking figure, and I'm super happy to have it. And when it looks like this, you know, even at this angle, I don't really see any issue. And again, maybe it's just me being super crazy and paranoid, having to heat him up. And I mean, like, we have it at about a 5x zoom, and you can't see anything. Is it just me, or is there just a slight gap, or is it just the shadows kind of covering up the neck? I can't even tell. Is it going to make a difference if it's in focus? There we go. Probably not. Will it look okay when he's paired up with all the other Kingdom Death stuff I've got on the table? That's where my hope lies. And you know what? To me, doing these videos is kind of like my revitalizing and powering up my spirit bomb energy like Goku would. Busting out all my other Kingdom Death models. Grabbing a few of the other gentlemen. Because when you're going to look this fabulous, you know, you got to look fabulous, right? With some of the gentleman pinups here. If those aren't exactly your taste, we've got the more burly barbarian types. And the Lantern Guard, somebody reminded me of our friend on the left here. Thank you for that. Our barbarian... I can't think of the guy's name. Our barbarian white-haired guy, whose name is escaping me at the moment. I'm sure somebody can remind me. I'm sure if I actually look at some of the paperwork, it's on there somewhere. But the barbarians were going to get redone in plastic, if I recall correctly, from the last Black Friday update. So that's kind of cool to see. Grimory here as well is getting a plastic version. This is the resin one from a while back when he didn't have any special rules or anything included with him. And just people complain about the size difference with the older models versus the newer. Obviously, this is the green dragon armor from the original Kickstarter. It was a green dragon, right? I haven't ever put it together in the game. That's sad to say, but I feel like he's about, you know, he's an older model, but I don't feel like he's too out of place with our generic knight here. You know, it's when you start to see some of the stuff like the Death King armor, I guess you can start to see the bigger discrepancies in size. I absolutely love that Death King armor. The Paladin from one of the older Echoes of Death. For a long time, she was my gold standard in terms of just big, ridiculous models in Kingdom Death. I think the Death King armor is still probably going to take that crown. Just because I have a couple of the ladies handy. We have, what was it, Stampede Glaive Zell and the Lunar Twilight Knight. She was plastic, I believe, yeah. They're both plastic, whereas obviously our generic knight is photo resin. They look a bit taller. Especially that Lunar Twilight Knight, surprisingly. Another of the recent models I really like, Gunborg. Gunborg Ace. Jumborg Ace, I'm thinking. Another of the older survivors. This was the male Lagomorph Bunnyman, who for a good while was one of the larger models as well in his photo resin material. But you can see, you know, variety is the spice of life, and with the Kingdom Death stuff, you absolutely get plenty of it. If you're not familiar, and I'm like clearing my throat here and trying not to choke, familiar with these models, I always recommend do take a look at the website. Don't ever go after the scalpers. Unless you're really, really looking for some of the old obscure stuff, like the Valkyrie, which I have yet to see get re-released. But just a lot of fun, interesting models. They're not cheap, but then again, nothing seems to be these days. So take from that what you will. And if you're seeing this at some other time, there's always a good chance that models like these end up in the Black Friday sales, which tend to be quite the deals in terms of figures costs as well. You can get weird, fun stuff like the Halloween costume survivors, or stuff like the Automata dolls. She was an interesting one. Yep, a lot of fun, funky stuff for Kingdom Death, and hopefully we will see this guy. If you want to see how I do a poor job of painting him, he'll show up at some point in one of these Monday weekly painting progress videos. where you will hopefully see it, and I will try to do it justice. So fingers crossed in that regard. And with that said then, this has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities and Miniatures, saying thanks for watching, and we'll see you back here soon. Bye-bye.